A special guest at tonight's Australian Web Awards in Perth is Rick Barrett. He's the chair of the World Wide Web Conference 2017. Now, Rick, if my memory serves me correctly, the last time that the World Wide Web Conference was held in Australia was in 1998 in Brisbane. There was a paper presented by a couple of fellas that talked about the capability of indexing even hundreds of thousands of websites. They proposed to offer a service for free called Google. So the conference has a pretty rich history in Australia. You're hosting it in March?
April
in Perth.
So I've got to tell you, that paper in Brisbane didn't win Best Paper. A lot of people didn't believe it, but hey, those guys are worth billions. So what's going to happen at the World Wide Web Conference is we're going to get some really out there new things about what's happening in the web. And, you know, it's up to people like you and I, people in AWIA, developers, business people, to really look at what the academics are coming up with and say, how can we use this in the future? There's going to be some fantastic things happening.
So obviously tonight we've seen the best of the best, the Australian Web Award winners nationally. Was there anything that piqued your interest?
So there's a lot of really fantastic stuff. I've got to say, one of the key things we do at AWIA is we focus on the standards that need to be embedded in all websites and the way we do things. And a lot of people don't understand why those standards are needed. So one of our tracks in the World Wide Web Conference is the W3C track, where standards are the key. So for the first time in Perth, we're going to be looking at standards around Web 3D and VR, standards around location monitoring, geolocation, and also looking at online payments, for instance. So those standards there's 3 new sets of standards that have never been talked about before in this large scale.
It's interesting that you should raise the virtual reality and the augmented reality. That's something that, as we've asked tonight, what are the hot trends going to be next year? Several of the winners have brought up. Another thing that's a hot topic at the moment: Internet of Things.
Yes.
Any views on where that's going to go in 2017?
Look, the Internet of Things is growing so much. I think there's a stat I saw that said there's going to be more devices connected to the web than there are people in the world by 2020. Now, I reckon it's going to happen earlier than that. So there's a whole lot of issues around the IoT. What's the security? If there are people producing cheap and simple devices, maybe it's your fridge, maybe it's your toilet, maybe it's, who knows what's connected to the web. These things can be hacked. So it's an issue for security, but it's also an issue about, there's a thing about making our lives simpler. We're looking at both elements of that. And we're looking at that through several aspects, including a conference on the Internet of Things in mining, oil and gas, several seminars about smart cities, and a big IoT hands-on interactive display in our Tech Expo.
Okay, and obviously these Internet of Things sensors you're talking about brings another buzzword to light, which would be big data.
So, you know what? Perth is the centre of the world for big data.
Is that right?
We've got the biggest science experiment in the world being built now, just north of Perth. It's in a zone where, you know, you can't go in there with your phone turned on because it's complete radio silence. It's the square kilometre array. The idea is we're going to look at the stars and go back in time billions of years. So you don't want interference in that. But when it gets turned on, and we think that's around 2020, in the first 6 hours, it's going to create more data in that 6 hours than currently exists in the world now. How are we going to store that? How are we going to manage it? How are we going to process that data? At the moment, there's experiments going on in Perth around citizen science experiments where thousands of computers are using their free time, mostly at night, to process astronomical data as a precursor. That's not the answer overall, but it's a step on the way.
So it's obviously the Australian Web Awards being held in Perth. You've clearly got a view on the fact that Perth is the home of big data in Australia. Perth,
it's the home of innovation, not just big data, right?
Why is that?
So, okay, we want to be quiet about this one. Perth is remote. Shh, don't tell our delegates who are coming. But because we're remote, we need to find new ways to connect. So we connect via the web. So we're really good at connecting via the web. We connect into Asia, and it's easy for us to travel. We have to connect across a time zone back to the eastern states. Massive time zone, 3 hours in summer. So we're used to making do with that. And the web conference, it's big for us. There's a group of investors from Silicon Valley who come here every year. They were here this week for the OzApps Award, and they think Perth's it's one of those places in the world that'll become the new Silicon Valley. There's several, they say that too. We're not unique.
But in Australia, your view is that Perth would be the Silicon Valley.
We've got all the right mixes. We've got the lifestyle. We've got the sunshine. You saw it today. 32 degrees, beautiful. 37 tomorrow. I came here from Melbourne for the sunshine. Younger people than me come for the fun, the lifestyle, the surfing, the kite surfing, the great beer, the great wines. So we're going to attract delegates for that reason as well.
Okay. So do you think there's anyone here tonight that maybe in a few years' time won't just be involved in the World Wide Web conference, but maybe you'll be the next Sergi? And
look, I'd love to think so. We've got a couple of really high-profile Western Australians who have made it big, but over on the east you've got them as well. So we're not unique in that. I'd like to think the World Wide Web Conference is a catalyst for the whole of Australia, for anyone who comes from Australia to get the buzz, get the field, meet the experts, have a great time, and we'll go back to wherever they are, whether it's Perth, whether it's Toowoomba, whether it's Melbourne or Hobart, and they'll come back inspired and ready to take that next step. There's no reason. I mean, Australia's a first world country, great opportunities, and we're going to take advantage of those.
Very good. Thanks, Rick.
No worries.
2017, March?
April. First week in April.
I'm so excited. I'm getting there a month ahead of my time.
You can come early and help us.
Very good. How many delegates? 2,000, 3,000 delegates?
So, look, you'll meet the world's experts. You'll be amongst maybe 2,500 to 3,000 delegates. We're putting on about 12 conferences, fun activities, social activities. You can go out there and swim at City Beach. You can swim with the whale sharks if you want to. Have a fine West Australian beer or wine. It'll be great.
Very good. Thanks, Rick.
No worries.